Coy, all street racing talk reminds me of when you and Chris went and picked up that free Geo Metro.
Oh, Chris actually wanted me to tell this story because his fiance he told her the story, but she doesn't really believe how it all went down.
Yeah.
So let's just set this in stone right now. This isn't so much for you guys. This is for my buddy Chris. I'll just get this on record. If you enjoy it, good for you. But there was a time when I was about 19 or 20 where our goal was we had sports cars, I should say sport compact cars that were quickish. We wanted a free car to rally, though. Like, we missed the old days of having a beater that you could just trash.
Right.
So that was kind of our goal for a while. And this is pre-Gambler. You got to remember that. But basically, we had the same feeling. We wanted a Gambler. We were looking for a free car. We'd been looking. We'd see one in a field. We'd ask around, we'd knock on the door. Hey, what's up with that? Does it run? Do you want to get rid of it?
This is back in the day when you could find a free vehicle. People were just like, hey, this piece of shit's sitting in my driveway. Get it out of here.
Well, there's that, or it'd be like $100.
Right.
They just need it gone. Basically, there was a lot of just asking if you can get something that kind of ran for $50 or something.
Sure.
So we were asking around, and probably 3 or 4 months of us daydreaming about a free car went by. And then I get a phone call from my buddy Chris, and he's like, hey, bro, just got us a free car. It's a Geo Metro.
Yeah.
And it runs. And I'm like, it runs? And I'm like, where are you? And he tells me, and it's literally the street I am driving on. He is on the other end of it. I am 2.5 minutes from his location. I'm like, you just hang tight. I will be there in seconds. And I whip in. Some old buddy of his that he went to high school with, renting some house, was out mowing. He saw him, waved, saw this Geo Metro with grass growing around. I was like, what's up with that? Dude's like, doesn't run. You can have it if you want it. And dude hands him the keys, and he jumps in and immediately fired up and ran solid for some reason.
That was probably the only time it fired up and ran solid.
If you would let it sit for I don't know what was wrong with it. If you'd let it sit for 3 days, it would fire up cold. If you drove it, got it warm, and then shut it off, you had about an hour window to start it again, or you'd have to wait 3 days.
Right.
The only way, if you were in that 3-day window, is we'd pull all the spark plugs, take a propane torch, and just get the motor super warm, hot to the touch, put the plugs back in, and it'd fire right up.
Right, because it finally had compression.
I'm not really sure what was happening. I honestly, because
we can make some assumptions.
Well, I'm guessing it was that, but then I don't understand why if it was super cold, it would start.
I don't want to jump in here too many times. I want to let you finish, but am I remembering correctly? Wasn't that dude like a Satanist or something? Hadn't they put a curse on that car? I mean, there was something about that.
That part I don't remember. We'd have to get Chris to say.
Okay.
The dude seemed a little odd, but
I thought there was something like that.
Free car. I'm not gonna.
Yeah.
We said it was cursed because of the antics that ensued after that.
Yeah. Well, sure. Fair enough.
So we have this free car, and so immediately we start gutting it and stuff. I burned my name in the door with a torch at some point. It just said Coy in black on the side. There was some fake racing, duct tape racing stripes. It got modified, we did some stuff, and then we just take it out and rally. And we kind of already figured out all the places where there was no ditch, where the road was just leveled into a field. And this was kind of midsummer. So most around here, it's a lot of grass seed. And they've already cut it by then. So even though it's a field, it's like a mowed lawn almost. So we would be ripping around corners. It had these tiny, horrible tires. So if the corner said 45 miles an hour and you went around it at 45 miles an hour, it's all tires screeching, white knuckles. You're just oh, the limit is so low. Why is it so bad at going around corners? So it kind of made things fun again for a little while, because you're used to in a car, if it said 45 back then, we're well, let's double it and add 10.
Right.
That was our rule. We'd be double add 10. So, we just were loving this thing, bombing it through all this stuff. I went and picked up a friend of mine. We drove by her house. I'm oh, let's see if she's home. Somebody I went to school with. Picked her up, and we're check out this sweet car. And we're mobbing it. Anna's in the back seat, mobbing this thing, cutting through fields. And as I left her house, I'm yanking the e-brake up, swinging the back end around.
Oh, because that was one thing that worked fantastic.
The e-brake was amazing.
Yeah.
And we drove through a field, come back, grass hanging out of this thing. Her dad is waiting in the driveway, freaking pissed. Like he had saw me leave, swinging the back end of this Geo around, starts screaming at me about taking his daughter and all this stuff. She was wildly embarrassed, and he apologized later. Thought it was funny, I guess. But so that was kind of the first start of the horribleness. How we figured out the e-brake was good is when we left with this car, left this dude's house. And the dude, like he'd already said we could have it free, kind of had a weird look in his face when we were leaving with it, like, what, it runs? Like a little surprised, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So, but we're like, yep, bye. And we left. As you guys are following me home, somebody was driving my car. You're following me home, and I see this dude, kind of old man jogger with the short shorts, like the hardcore jogger.
Oh my God, yes.
And as I see it, like literally I start getting that Cheshire cat grin. And as I get up to him, I floor it, which you can hardly tell in a Geo Metro, and then I just lock the e-brake. But since it's floored, the back end just kicks sideways. You know, you get like an 11-degree slant on the car. Locked back tires just screeching up on him. And he did a full lawn dart into the ditch, thinking I was crazy. Like,
yeah,
full out jump into the ditch, like just hands up, threw himself like there was an explosion.
Yes.
You guys caught him standing up as you came by, screaming and waving his fists in the air and stuff.
I was dying. I was absolutely dying. He was freaking out so bad.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. It was so, and listen, not that I'm advocating this, you guys don't ever do that. You know, that's bad news bears.
Yeah, no.
But this was hilarious.
It was, yeah, we laughed hard and long, and then we got home, got together, talked about it, also laughed more harder.
Yeah.
And more longer. And then me and Chris decided we're going to take this thing out. We kind of made some runs. We were kind of scoping for some races. Come back, we hit up McDonald's, and I got a McDonald's for the whole class. Like I got like 2-3 bags. It's across my lap of McDonald's. He takes the exit that goes to the town. I mean, off the highway that from the exit, maybe 3/4 of a mile was our duplex, and it's got a downhill. You know, you go over the overpass downhill, and he's like, "Hey man," flooring it, you know, and I'm like, "Hey man, there's a spot right up here where the cops sit all the time because this drops down to a 40." And he's like, anyways, he enters the 40 at 65, which is about the max the car could go, pretty close to top speed. Of course, the cop was sitting there. So he pulled us over in front of the duplex we all lived in. And, you know, he's writing him a ticket. And I'm like, bro, can I, this is our house here. Can I just go in? Because my food's getting cold. He's like, yeah, no, I don't need you. I'm like, okay, bye. So we went in, started making fun of Chris and eating our McDonald's. And then he came in with literally like a $265 ticket, which was the ticket that put him into a 30-day suspension. By the way.
Yeah, it was. I totally forgot about that.
Yeah. So he rode his bike like 9 miles to work every day for a while. Then maybe a week later or so, his ticket, he hadn't gone to court yet, so he didn't really realize the severity of how his life was about to change.
Yeah.
We take it out, I'm driving, and there was a spot in Salem that you could jump these train tracks. It was really aggressive rake onto these train tracks, but it was dark and I hadn't done it in a couple of years, and we couldn't figure out where it was at. I couldn't remember. And this thing burned oil like crazy, so it smoked bad. And I'm bombing along and I floor it and it's smoking. I'm kind of whipping it back and forth, making the shocks move around. And I look behind me. It's kind of late. You know, it's like 10 o'clock. And I'm like, is that a cop bike behind me? Why is nobody rides a BMW at 10 o'clock in town? I'm like, I'll just turn here, see if he follows me. He followed me and it was a motorcycle cop. He pulled me over and he's running my stuff. I didn't really know how long he'd been following me, so I don't know what he saw me do.
Right.
There was antics happening all evening, so I don't know. I'm kind of biting my tongue. I don't know what he saw me do, and I'm like, look, officer, I can't get any more tickets. I will take this thing straight home. Just let me go. I can't get any more. I'm gonna lose my license. And he says, oh no, it's not a big deal. I just want you to know that you have excessive emissions, and you're kind of on the edge. You're really smoky. And I was like, oh yeah, it's an old car. There was literally a case of oil in the back seat to keep it topped off, you know? And he's like, no, you don't need to go home. It's fine. Like, I'm just letting you know. And since I got you, I'm running your stuff. And like relief, you know? But at that point, I'm like, look, Chris, I can't get any more tickets. Now I've already pushed my luck for tonight. You drive now.
Yeah.
So we we hot, Chinese fire drill this thing and we leave. Cop was super nice. We mess around some more and more antics, and then at some point Chris is like, we should go street racing. I'm like, absolutely. We should.
Now that it's not you driving.
And so we go downtown where there's a little bit of action, but there wasn't anything going on. I'm like, well, let's go out to there was a wildlife area that was really popular for street racing because the pull-out viewing areas were exactly a quarter mile apart. So you could just park in these big gravel parking lots on each end. So we head out there, but the action usually doesn't start till 11:30 or midnight there.
Mm-hmm.
So we're getting out there like,
allegedly.
Allegedly.
Yeah.
In this dream that I'm about to wake up from.
Right. Where you were in Mexico.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where I was on a close course with professional drivers.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. So we're heading out there, and right before you get to the main straight stretch where the actual drag racing goes on, there's a turkey's foot or whatever you want to call it, where three roads come together with yields and stop signs. The road we're on is the main one, so there's no stop sign. But where all these three roads come together, the center triangle is all gravel. As we come in there, he swings wide, goes straight into the gravel. I mean, you're doing 30 miles an hour, pulls that amazing ease brake, spins through the gravel, and then drops it and floors it back onto the pavement and just drives down all the way down to the far end. It's early, so there's no cars there yet. There was one waiting at the end of the quarter mile. We're going to the beginning of the quarter mile because we want to talk someone into racing a Geo.
Right.
Like, we're going to be hilarious. It's going to be funny. We get there, we stop, we roll down the windows and kind of back it into a spot. And I'm like, do you hear a siren? And he's like, I do hear a siren. And it's clearly getting closer at this point. A cop comes just rocking in. I mean, hard, locks it up in the gravel, slides it sideways, throws the door open, jumps out, kneels behind the door, yanks his freaking gun out. He's got us at gunpoint. We're frozen. We're like, what is happening? Like, yeah. There's no way he saw us do any of the crazy stuff. We haven't done anything crazy yet. He screams, get out of the car and lay on the ground. So he screams, get out of the car. So we both get up, and he's like, hands up, or hands in the air. He's giving us the full, like, if he's arresting known felons, he's like, lay on the ground with your hands above your head. So we both are on opposite sides of the car. My car side is away from him, and I'm like, this seems weird because I'll disappear, but he's got a gun pointed at me. So I lay on the ground, and then he screams, not you, dumbass. Come over here and lay on the ground. And so I get back up. It's muddy, dirty gravel, and there was like a mud puddle there, and I just laid in it. Like, I'm not so I'm covered in mud. Mm-hmm. He comes around, and Chris is laying on the ground. I'm standing up. He then holsters his weapon, comes up to me, spins me around, assume the position, full frisk while my buddy's laying on the ground here. All right, you put your hands, on your legs. He had me like sit on the car. Then he got Chris, went through a full frisk with him, cuffed him, handcuffs, sits him on the bumper of the cop car, and he's just screaming the whole time about how reckless and dangerous we are, and just losing. Like, this guy is out of a 0 to 10, he's at 1,000. Like, yeah. Like, if he had shot Chris, I'd be like, well, there we go. That's like, that was when you see stuff about cops on the news. Like, this is a cop where if you just seen the video, if you're watching the start of this video, you would assume one of us was shot by the end. This dude was angry. I mean, I can't. It's hard to explain without someone being there. Right. But I mean, this dude, he wanted one of us to talk or move so he could mace us. Like, he was super angry, but being insulting and kind of goading. Like, he wanted some action here.
Right.
Chris is on the bumper of the car. He's got his head down. He's screaming at him, and just this whole thing about how dangerous we are and stuff. It's like, and do you know how fast you were going? And Chris kind of looks up at him and goes, 55, 60? And the cop like stuns. You can see him like catch himself like, oh yeah, they weren't speeding. They're in a Geo.
Right.
He's like, that's as fast as this thing can go, isn't it? It's like, yeah, it's about as fast as it could go, I guess. Like, and his whole thing was, how reckless we were for spinning through that gravel there. And at some point, he kind of he's running out of stuff to say, because we didn't do that much illegal stuff other than grab the e-bike through this gravel thing here.
Right.
And he says, give me one good reason why I don't take you to jail for reckless endangerment right now. Now, my buddy Chris had been in college for some things. I'm really not sure what. He was not in college at this point.
Getting the ladies. That's what he was in college
yeah, I
for.
think he's there to get laid. But at this point, he's not in college. He's working like Trust Joyce or something. Like he's working at a factory.
Mm.
He looks up the cop and he says, well, that really ruined my career options. The cop says, oh, really? And now the cop's almost getting more angry again. Like he's getting excited that he's ruining someone's career options. He's like, what's that? And he's like, I'm trying to become a police officer. And the cop goes, just all that anger and rage just came down to zero. And he goes, just has his book in his hand, and then he just kind of puts his hand down. That would ruin your career option. And it just changed the situation, a total reverse turnaround of this situation. It was amazing. The cop also wanted to know whose vehicle it was, and we were kind of like, well, I mean, it's his now. It was mine. And because we were trading. You know, we just write fake bills of sale, basically. Like, okay, right. It's now yours. Then we'd burn through the 30 days of free insurance. right. Like, okay, now it's your car. So if we wreck it, it's on you. And at that point, I started out and it had my name in it. And then Chris, was like, yeah, it's mine. He was like, why does it have his name on it? And it's like, well, I burned it there with a torch. I don't know. And he had some more questions about that. And as he's shining his light around the car, he sees a case of oil. He's like, that thing burns that much oil, you need a whole case of oil in there? We're like, yeah, we do. Anyways, the cop, though, he just total reverse change around of his attitude. Tells Chris, here's the deal, bro. I'm going to put this date in my phone, my PDA. This years ago, he had a PDA. Right. I'm putting this in there. I'm putting your name in here. I'm writing down a brief description of what happened. You're not getting a ticket. But here's what I am doing. In 1 year, I'm setting this to send an alarm, and I'm going to look at it. And then I'm going to run your driving record. And if you have a ticket, I'm going to write you this ticket as well. So you got 1 year to keep it clean. And Chris was like, yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We'll keep it there. And then Chris was like, all right, you're driving home. So I drove home and I was like, while this all was going on, I'm just like, how much money's in my account? I don't know how much it would cost to bail someone out of jail for reckless endangerment. I've never even bailed someone out of jail. I don't know how to do it. Like, I'm super confused. I'm like, I think $1,000 bail somebody out of jail for this. I think I got $1,000. Like, I don't know. And I'm thinking, how much money Andy got? All our other friends I know are broke. Maybe I can get a couple $100 to get Chris out of jail. I don't even know how to get Chris out of jail. But he didn't go to jail. So then Chris took the car, and he was like, this thing's clearly cursed. You almost got a ticket. I got one ticket. I almost went to jail. What do we do?
Almost got shot.
Possibly, yeah. And I said, we got to scrap it, bro. And so we scrapped it, took it into the place. I think they gave us like $138. Wasn't much.
Not enough to pay off his ticket.
We went straight to Taco Bell and bought $138 worth of Taco Bell, which is a lot of Taco Bell. Brought her back to the apartment and feasted like men. We drank our beer, told our stories.
Oh man, and listen, we were living together at the time, so I mean, I can attest. All of this is 100% true. It's that car was a curse. It was cursed.
It was for sure cursed. And I mean, we would take this thing. We'd go out to eat or something. We'd be inside, and we're like, "How long has it been?" Like 40 minutes. And one of us would get up, run outside, fire the car up, and just wham, 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 wham. You can just hear out the parking lot, keeping this thing warm. And then we'd come charging back in. We kept a torch in it in case we need to get the block heated up again.
It wasn't exactly wah, it was more like but
yeah. Yeah, a lot of that.
It revved so slow. That was such a pile. Well, it wasn't really a pile. It was not a bad car for someone that only needed to drive once every 3 days.
Yeah, it would have been perfect for that.
Exactly. And only be in the supermarket
driver.
And only be out for 34 minutes.
Yeah, you need to go drive it only on Sundays to a drive-through and then come straight home.
Exactly. Yeah.
And then top the oil off.
So there you go. I mean, that's the whole story. Chris, you're welcome. Now everybody knows about this story. Hopefully the cop doesn't watch us later on and go, hey, I'm going to retroactively. By the way, I think that was total BS. There's no way you can retroactively do a ticket.
Yes, you have 1 year.
Really?
You have 1 year to go back on it. Yeah.
Wow.
And that's why he's like, I got 1 year to decide this. and we're going to wait till the last day.
That's hardcore, man. That's hardcore. If I was a cop, I don't think I would. I mean, that is what, Coy, if you were a cop and you encountered something like that, would you be able to do anything besides just high five them and drive away?
I would just pull up with my lights on, look at them, shake my head,
Yeah.
and then slowly drive away.